My name is Andrea Hardy, and I am the manager of customer success here at TOPS. Today we're going to be talking about best practices for setting up your custom fields in TOPS 1. So again, we're going to be talking about advantages of using the custom fields. In addition, we're going to go over all of the areas and pages that you can use custom fields. And there's some really great features. If you're coming from Pro, you're used to doing some of the things on the properties page, but this has got a lot more of a vast amount of pages you can track information on. So we'll go through giving you guys a lot of ideas on how to do this. And then once we're done going through, examples and best practices, then we'll go through how to create and assign your custom fields. All right. So what are the advantages of using custom fields? A custom field is essentially a field that you can set up and track any information based on, the location you want to track it. And then you can assign information, to a property, to an owner, to an internal user, to a vendor. So there's a lot of cases where this is going to be very beneficial for you guys. And then you can also customize where the information displays. And then we won't be covering the reporting part today, but one of the great features also is the ability to create custom reporting based on the custom field information. So let's look at the different pages that you can set up custom fields for. Like I said, user level, community, your properties, your owners, even your amenities, vendors, and one of the things I really like is the organization level, and we'll go into why that's important. And then items like board committee pages. And there's actually a few additional ones, but with the timing, we won't be able to cover those today, but you'll be able to see and go through being able to set those up additionally. So what we'll do is go through a lot of ideas. My goal is to give you inspiration on using those custom fields for your community's specific needs. So let's take a look at some of the examples that you would use for your internal users. Some of the things I could think of would be like their hire date. If somebody leaves, their termination date. Things that, a lot of times you're like, wow, I don't know where I put that, or I've got to dig around and find it. When was their last review date? Their continuing education renewals. Additionally, things like what position are they in if you're a larger company? Who do they report to? Things like, storing their address, their email, phone numbers, emergency contacts. And then things like birthdays and hobbies, so people can get more familiar with each other, especially in a mid to large organization. Now we're coming to the community page. Of course, this one I can think of probably 50 things that we could track through this, but I just wanted to give some common ones that you could use. And what's nice too is when you configure the custom fields, you can decide where the location on the page is. So if you want them to be at the bottom of the page or on the right-hand panel. And I would suggest too, maybe segregating. You can decide on this certain page, I want it to be accounting information only that's on the right panels and more specific information on the bottom panels. And we'll go through what that means here in a little bit. So you could track things, the type of community. I don't know how many people, are always, if you're managing multiple communities, you're like, wow, is that one a condo? Is that a single family? Is it a mixed use? And that's very beneficial if you've got someone new who's answering customer calls and they're not sure. So they'll be able to easily see that information displayed. And then also things like gate and pull entry codes. If there's a master code that you've got to give out to vendors or to homeowners. Additionally, things like trash pickup days, any city contacts. I know one of the things we used to do was reporting light outages to the city. So instead of digging around for that information, it'd be right there when you open your community page. If you're a condominium or live in an area that has pretty extensive storms, you could have emergency procedures, fair housing requirements, and even things like move-in policies. If you've got specific rules and you want to make sure that everyone in your office knows that when they're looking at that community page. And then for billing, invoice type and frequency. They're annual and they want a coupon, or they just want to receive, monthly invoices. So those kinds of things can be tracked directly on that community page. And for us, I know multiple boards want different things in their board package. You could even have a list of what the content is. And then, of course, important dates, which we all have to track, which would be annual meeting dates, the address of the meeting, when the board meeting dates are, the fiscal year end. And one of my favorite is tracking the management start date, because that's one that I always had to reference it and try to find the management agreement and dig through to find that information. So it's nice to have it right there. And then also things like your previous management company that you take on a community from. Just all things that inevitably come up one time or another, and it's just really nice to have all that information in one central location. And then we've got custom fields that we can assign specifically to the property page. So if you've got different ones that maybe have lots under construction, or empty lots, or homes built on them, you could have a drop down and assign it from that property page, so that you could quickly see if that home if that property has a home or a lot, or if it's under construction. And then also, if it's mixed use, you could determine if it's a townhome or a condo, or if it's a single family home. And then additional information like parking space number or mailbox assignment. Even things like if you assign codes or keys for amenity entry, like pools, you could record all your information here and have specific fields that you set based on what to track. And one that we always know about, vehicles, that's always a fun one to track, but you could set it up to track multiple vehicles, who they belong to, when you issued vehicle passes, things like that. I know that there's a lot of use cases for that. And I know in a lot of condominiums, things like fire inspections that have to be done on individual units. So dates when it was done, you could even assign it by year, so you could see a year-over-year kind of history of everything that's gone on with a specific unit. And then informational things like if there's watering schedule restriction days, you could put that in there. So when you're sending out a CC&R violation, hey, we noticed you were watering on an incorrect day. Here's your information. Please make sure you're not doing that again. So I'm sure you guys probably have a lot of other things that you could think of. So just trying to kind of get your brain thinking about all the things that you could do with this to make your job easier. Now we'll go on to the owner page. So you may have different owners, a first, second owner that you're tracking information, and you want to have things like pets or children's names and ages or emergency contacts. Again, you could do vehicles on either the property or the owner page. And then access information again, pull key fob numbers, when they were issued. Scheduling things like if you want to have date selections for, say, a clubhouse reservation. Or visitor information like the type of access, the name, the date they're going to be visiting. And then, thinking about all of the different amenities for your properties. If you set up the amenities through the community page, then you've got the ability to assign these custom fields directly to the amenity. So one of the things I know we did a lot of pool management, so we had to track when the pool was opening, when it was closing. We'd have to determine, hey, it's 30 days before we open it. We've got to get all the pool furniture out. So anything and everything you can think of around those important dates, pressure washing, things of that nature. That's all stuff you could track here and really see a full view of everything you need for that amenity. And including things like maintenance, their annual contract, when it's up, the type of maintenance that has to be done, any preferred contractors. And then also informational. I know a lot of people call and, you got to send a vendor out to the location. And if you're not available as a manager, it'd be nice for the person who's helping them to be able to have a location and give them directions, any access codes for entry, and then any like rules for entry. Hey, if you're going in to work on this, you only can go to this amenity. You can't go around trying to gather business for your company, things like that. And then on the vendor page, there's a lot of different things on this one, but I'm thinking more like the date hired, whether they have a contract or if they're just kind of a use as needed contractor. Any access information, what days they're permitted, if they've got access through a fob or key code or something like that. But keep in mind on the vendors, you can track all of the contract information that's built into TOPS 1 also, so you wouldn't need to create specific custom fields for that. On the organization page, this would be your company page or the admin page, whatever you guys know it as. But I'm thinking, everything from your office hours, what your holiday schedule is, any employee office access, key cards that are issued, if it's something that they need to get into the building, or keys, anything that you're giving out that you need to track who has that information. You could do it on the organization or the user level. And then any, rules about like time off requests or standard operating procedures, just kind of reminders that could live here so you could easily access them. And then the board committee page, I know that one of the things I always wanted to track on my boards and my committees, especially with committees, if they're, an ongoing committee or a standing committee that, or ad hoc, if they're going to have a limited amount of information that they're trying to gather to put together proposals and then it's going to dissolve. It would be, for our board members, what date they were elected, how long is their term, so that when you're putting together your annual meeting notice, you don't have to go digging for the information, you know exactly where to find it, what their position is, preferences. Some people prefer email contact, some phone contact, so that way whoever jumps on there, if you say, hey, reach out to that person, they know, hey, that person likes a phone call or that person likes an email. And things like if they want a printed copy or electronic copy of their meeting packages. You could even track things like their hobbies, just ways to create that trust and bond with board members, personal and business wise, and things that they're passionate about. If they're really passionate about CCNR violation enforcement, or they're really passionate about the budget, just having that information. So if you do have any manager turnover, it's great to get in there and really see the full vision, of who you're going to be working with. All right, next we're going to go through, now that we've kind of touched base and got you thinking about ways that you can use the custom fields. Now it's going to be, okay, that sounds great, but how do I do it? So we'll go through setting up the custom fields step by step, and then we'll go through an actual setting one up in TOPS 1 demo. And keep in mind too, there's a great knowledge base on our site, and you can also use the support button that's built into TOPS 1 and put custom fields in your search criteria to be able to pull up our knowledge base article that's more in depth than what we're going to go through today. So first off, if I'm wanting to get one set up, the first thing I'm going to do is log into TOPS 1, and I'm going to go to the admin page, which on your navigation pane, you'll see that the admin option is at the bottom of your navigation pane next to automation. So you'll want to click there. And once you're in your admin page, you'll scroll down on the main body of the page until you see custom field categories. And any that you've previously set up, it's going to show you a list of those. But to manage all of them in one view, just click that View All button. And then we'll get to the ability to create new ones, or you can edit the ones that you already have set up. But today we'll cover how to set them up, because it's essentially the same as the different steps as we're going through would be the same way you edit them at a later date. One of the things to keep in mind is once you enable them and save information to them, you can't go back and just delete them because it's got records attached to them. So just a little bit of a safeguard. So I always say sit down, really map out and think about how you want these laid out so that you get them right the first time and you hit the ground running. So to create a new field, you're going to see on that page that you've got an option over to the right that says add a category to the right column, or if you are going to add it to the main body, you scroll towards the bottom and that option will be there. And that's just going through where it's going to live on the page. So if you've got the community page, it's going to live on the main body down below all the other information. And on the right, that means it's going to be more like your activity feed where it's a more condensed version. So once I click either main body or to the right, I'm going to set up a new category and then add fields. So the first thing you have to do is add a category name. So that would be user information. We'll just use the user field as that example. Once I put that in there, I'll click the add field option. And then from here, what we'll do, you can set field name, which for me would be start date. You know, when did the person get hired? And then underneath that, you'll see a field type, and that's a drop-down option. And from there, you can toggle and choose the type of field you want. Is it a yes, no? Is it a date option? Is it monetary? Is it a list, a number, a text, currency, or multi-line? So if you want, you know, several lines of information, click the multi-line. You know, here we would want a date option so that we can quickly just select a date. And then once you're done with that, you would just hit the option you want, and it's going to have that field type created. And then if you want to continue adding fields under that subheading, you can add as many as you want to that area. So once you're done adding those different options, then you're going to click on the category settings icon. And I just did a little screenshot of that icon. And you're going to get a pop-up box that says category settings. And what this allows you to do is say, hey, I only want it to be for one community because they track the most odd thing that no one else is going to do. So I can pick and make that available only on that community for that user page or for that owner page or for that property page. So that's what I'm going to do is decide where it's going to live, who's going to have that custom field. And then I've also got the ability to assign roles. So if it's something to do with my organization, I don't want everybody being able to edit it. So maybe myself and my CFO are the only ones with access to that. So you set kind of what those user restrictions are, the different communities that you want to assign to. And then you've also got the ability to create that category description. So if you want to just put a little more detail about what you're using that category for, you can do that here too. And I just put an example on number 8. When I click that availability, these are all of the different pages where that custom field can live. If I want it to live only on the amenity options or only on property or only on vendor, because they're going to be specific to each of those pages based on what you want to track. And then once you decide where it's going to live, you'll assign your communities, and you can select all, deselect all, just pick a couple of those or make them available for all your communities. And then again, you'll assign who's going to have access to be able to edit those edit those categories. So whether it's only managers, maintenance staff, administrators, it depends on the roles that you have set up. These are just samples that we've got in our demo site. And then once you're done configuring all of it, you're going to click that little check box icon, which is going to save that information. You do have the ability to move those fields around with those little up and down arrows. And you've also, once you save it, you can move the actual custom field category up and down on the page where you're managing those, just so you can lay it out exactly how you need it. So I've logged in. I'm going to come down to my admin and click that to go directly to my admin page. And now from here, I'm going to scroll down on the page until I see custom field categories. And again, I can see all the different ones that I already have set up, but I'm going to want to come over here and select that view all option. And from here, any that you've already set up, you're going to see these on screen. But at the bottom of whether it's a right column or a main body column, you'll see the option to add a category. the right column, or you can add a category to that main body. But we'll decide to do one to the right column here. So from here, the first thing I'll do is add a category name. So we can put say committee. We'll just pick something. And from there, I'll want to add my fields. So my field name may be I'll put standing or an ad hoc committee. So that way I know if it's an ongoing or if it's just a committee put together for a specific purpose. So for this type of thing, I would want that true false option. So it gives me that checkbox option, yes or no. Or actually, I'm incorrect there. I want the drop down option. So I could either do, actually there's a couple options I could do. Depends on how you guys want to set it up. But you could do a list, or you could just do text and put standing or ad hoc. So we'll just do it for simplicity. And I could add another field, date created, and then choose my date option. And I'm like, okay, you know, that's good. That's what I want to do. So next I need to configure all of the category settings. So this little icon here is what I'll select. And it's going to pull up my pop-up box to let me configure all the different settings. So I can say enable the category. And once you set these up, you can turn them on and off so that if you're not ready, I only partially did it, let me turn it off until I get it completed, and then I'll turn it on. Category description. Committee formation, dates and types. My availability. I'd come down and pick the page committee. Communities, let's just go ahead and select all. And then who do I want to be able to make edits to these? So you know what, I'll say everyone. Okay. Once I've selected all those, I can come up and just save my category. And now I've got that available. So I'll go in and let's just go right back to my home page. Go into my communities list. I'm going to select any of them since I enabled on all of my communities. And now from here, I can see my committee page. Let's just come in to one of these. I'm going to edit. Actually, did I do it right? Let me go back. See, you're not the only one who makes mistakes. All of us do. So let me come in and look, make sure that I saved. All right, let's go back in there. I may not have made it available. Let's go back in and let's troubleshoot. It's actually a good thing. So here's my committee. I'm going to edit that. I may not have made it available. Make sure that my stuff is on there. Yep. So that's how she's checking to make sure that all the fields are turned on. go back in. Let's just go into let's add a committee here. And let's call it the art committee. And if you guys have like a committee that you meet at a certain place or a certain address, you know, it may be a Starbucks or the community pavilion, you can put an address in here so that it saves that. Oh, that's what I did. Okay. Let me add a committee member. I think that's what's wrong is I didn't have a committee member set up on the other one. And a real neat little tip that I'm going to tell you right now, kind of off the subject, but one of the things that I think is so important, when you're setting up like community names or vendors, when it has you have an alias and it always puts the alias in the display name, you can always just come under this display name and edit that so that your reports don't have the alias included. And I'll put a number for it. There we go. See ya. There we go. So here I've got my committee. And I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I didn't put it at the committee level. I put it at the committee member level. So totally my fault. So standing or ad hoc, I can put the text. Maybe I want to put, you know, and the create date. Then I want to save. And I've got my information there. And then I'll show you guys real quickly too. Let me go into mine. What some of the pages look like that I've got them set up on. So here, these are just examples like the community. And see, when you create one of those custom fields, each one of those bodies you can create. So if you want to segregate, say, the community info from, you know, important dates, from all that, then you would do each one of these separately when you set them up, and they'll display as separate boxes on your screen. And then I can make edits by coming in and just clicking these. And one of the features that we're actually looking to include in our future publishes is to make all this information editable directly from that box instead of having to go to your edit screen. Just one more way to kind of make it a little easier on you. So I can come in and say, you know what, it's not May, it's June, and put that, and then just save. And again, like invoices, statements, coupons, and a drop-down list. If you want to know, hey, what are our CCR fines, so I can always tell quickly when I'm on that community page, I've got that information there. So if someone calls and complains about a letter, well, you know, the first fine's after this many days and it's 50, and then after this many days and it's this one, instead of having to go into your code and take a look. It's all about the shortcuts. So I save that information. And then real quickly on, say, a property page. And just keep in mind, these are all samples. So you've really got a lot of flexibility on how you set these up. So here's deeded information that I created. And if you haven't updated any of the specific property information, it just says not set. So you know that these are all your options, but I just haven't entered anything there yet. You know, vehicle 1, vehicle 2, parking space, full key fob, but it gives you an idea. And if you set any up on the right, the boxes are going to display in this area.